All right, let's go ahead and talk about what's new in Django 3. And to kick things off, I'm going to share this awesome graphic from Django's website. If you go to djangoproject.com/download, this is an awesome little chart showing you the different versions of Django that have come out and that are going to come out, the ones that are planned. And I think this will be really helpful to you to decide, should I jump forward to Django 3? Should I not? This will be pretty helpful. So Django 3 is going to follow how Django 2 moved forward. Basically, Django 2 came out, less than a year later, Django 2.1 came out, and then a few months later, Django 2.2 came out, and 2.2 is the LTS version, the long-term support release, meaning that there's going to be a bunch of security updates and code fixes for this version for a long time. And so really, if you're looking for stability in your site and you don't want to constantly be upgrading, you probably want to aim for these long-term service ones. So for example, if you want, the long-term service here, you would want 2.2 as of the beginning of 2020. That's when I'm recording this, because it's like you're going to, get this for at least, it already has been out for like a half year, but you're going to get at least 2 years. And by that point, 3.2 has been out for a while, mature, and you can go ahead and switch over to the thing. So basically, this is all to say, if you're really looking for a stable release, go ahead and wait till 3.2. But that said, the amount of changes from one Django version to the next are not massive. As I'm going to go through some of the changes here, but in my experience, upgrading from 2 to 2.1 to 2.2, to 3 is not going to be that big of a deal. Now, admittedly, I don't have huge, massive projects with all these different details and whatnot, so I don't have super complex things whenever I'm migrating projects, but in my experience, it really hasn't been a big issue moving between projects. But just so that you know, it's kind of nice to see where it is that things are going. Okay, so there's that. As far as what's new in Django 3, there's some awesome release notes. If you go look at the release notes for Django 3, there's a lot to dive into. Big one here, we already talked about this in the course, you have to have at least Python 3.6. And while we're talking about Python versions, this is pretty funny to me. If we go ahead and scroll down here to the very bottom, this is backwards incompatible changes in 3.0. So these are big things to look at if you're moving from a 2 project to a 3 project. Let's go ahead and find this here. So Django 2 was supposed to be the version of Django that got everybody off of Python 2. You had to have at least Python 3 to use Django 2. I know the number is a little bit confusing there, but there were still a few little, as it says here, some private APIs that were left in Django 2 that still allowed you to use Python 2. But apparently in Django 3, it's like, no, we're serious. You cannot use Python 2 anymore in these projects. So it seems like Python 2 has taken forever to kill off and die. And, at least in the Django world, this is hopefully the last blow for it here. So that's one interesting thing to look at there. Other things that came with Django 3, MariaDB support. So if this is just another database that you can use with Django, that's one of my favorite things about Django is there's lots of different databases that it can connect with. I didn't know about MariaDB until I saw the release notes here. And essentially, it is a forked version of MySQL. And it's essentially the open source version of MySQL. I guess, from what I understand, MySQL is also open source, but it is backed by a company. And there was those that said, hey, we want to make our own changes. So they went off and made their own version. Anyways, if you'd like to test out and try MariaDB, go ahead and do all the same connections as if you were working with a MySQL database, and everything's going to work just fine. So there's that. And then also, this is probably the biggest thing eventually, but right now, honestly, is just a little bit boring. So to explain this better, we need to talk about the standard called WSGI. WSGI is basically the standard that says, hey, there's lots of different Django web apps out there. Like there is Flask and there is Django, and there's lots of different web servers out there. There's Unicorn, there's Cherry Pie, and there's Mod WSGI. And basically, it'd be great if all these things followed one standard so that any sort of web framework could pick any sort of Python server to be able to serve up their project. And that's what WSGI is. It's the standard that was created so that these two sides can talk to each other, and then you could easily swap out pieces where you need to. So this has been a great standard from what I researched the past 6-7 years, but there has been a desire to have a new standard for asynchronous servers. And basically the features wanted there are something like WebSocket. So if you want to make a website that has live chat or something like that, that would be a use case for that. Things that don't have to happen synchronously. Asynchronous means like it's happening in the background, and it kind of breaks the traditional model of web servers. And a lot of modern web servers have this, but this is something that, Django and the Python world's a little bit behind on. And people have already made side projects for this to be able to work with this. And so it's not like you can't do this at all, but this is hopefully something that is going to be coming into Django. And that's what this is here. Basically in Django 3, it's saying Django can now follow this new standard called ASGI, which is for Python web servers, but it's going to be asynchronous web servers. And now with Django 3, it can run as an ASGI project, but there's no asynchronous features yet with Django. So there's a tweet here from one of the developers of Django, Andrew Godwin, and he says Django 3 is out. Sadly, no real async stuff landed in this release, past some ground laying. Hopefully we'll get to that in 3.1. Plenty of other good changes though. So again, it's like this is a big deal eventually, but there's nothing new and shiny to play with right now. And so if you'd like to, because Django can be launched as a ASGI project or can be connected with an ASGI server, there's a great little documentation tutorial here showing you how to do it with Daphne or Uvicorn. These are two different web servers that adhere to the ASGI standard. So you can go ahead and check this out if you'd like. And I'd like to show you, you may have noticed this, but when you create a new project, so you can see I already made one here, but let's go to my desktop and I'm going to do my Django admin start project, and I'm going to make a new project just called eggs. Okay. So now I'm going to open up on my desktop here, this eggs project. And you can see inside of the structure of the project, not only is there this WSGI file, but there's also this ASGI file that basically one of those ASGI servers can use this in order to launch your project and get it moving. So that is there, but again, technically there's nothing really all that fun and cool to play with for the time being. So with the Django 3 release, lots of other new things here, but from my perspective, I didn't see anything that was really sort of eye-catching that I thought you would like to know about. Feel free to, jump through this to see what different things are out there. But like I said, hopefully in 3.1, we're going to see some new things. I'll be sure to update this with anything new that comes out, especially in the async world. If you're watching this and 3.1 is out and I haven't made something, go ahead and harp at me. Find me on Twitter, Nick Chuck Walter, or just message me and say, hey, you promised us some stuff. We need to see it. Anyways, okay. That's what I've got for what's new in Django 3. Hopefully you enjoy moving on to this new version.